Good morning, fellow gamers. Welcome back to Total Casual. Today, I'm super pumped to go over some things from the new Elden Ring Shadow of the ERDTREE trailer that just released. And there are some things I want to share with you that I think some other people haven't talked about yet. There's been a lot discussed, so I have a few new things that I want to dive into that I think will highlight some potential insights to the game coming up here in June that we can look forward to. So, going to go ahead and start the trailer.
Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
So, we have what we know is for sure that we're going to enter this world through his hand, which is cool, pretty interesting mechanic, and I think it's going to be a cool way to kind of leave from what we already know and go to somewhere new. And what I think about, Michaela in general is that he's going to be involved in this. I just don't think he'll be as involved in it as we think. So I think he will play a role. I'm not convinced in the beginning that he's going to have a huge role in the game. And I think that this trailer is kind of trying to get us in that mindset that he will play a huge role, and I'm not convinced that he will. We know that Michaela is able to manipulate people's feelings, emotions, and that's why he was so beloved by a lot. And he knew he had that power, which is super awesome and a powerful thing to have. And I think that this is going to be important because either he's gone back to this or returned to, I'm not sure if it's his first time or not, being in this shadow realm. However, if he's going, it feels like he's probably pretty comfortable doing it. So I think his return there might be something that is going to play a role in the plot of this specific game. So there is nothing more terrifying. I think it's important because I think it highlights that, sure, wielding love is great, but I think it's also something that's highlighting that, hey, just because he's been portrayed as a kid, been portrayed as like a loving, maybe potentially benevolent demigod, which is, we haven't seen a benevolent demigod yet in the Elden Ring. So I think they're kind of hyping him up to be this, he's a potentially bright light in Elden Ring. But I think this dialogue in the beginning is trying to foreshadow us that, hey, Michaela is not a walk in the park. He's not a ray of sunshine. He might wield this power, and it's just an absolute, just awful thing to see, or to be consumed with, right? If he is able to utilize the power against you, it could be a pretty awful thing to be involved in. So I think that's important, and we'll see if that holds true here in a few months. So this scene we talked about a lot. Obviously, I think it's supposed to put us in the mood of kind of being back in the lands between. However, it's obviously a different place. But I think I want to stop here on this image because people have talked a lot about the different things that this looks like, the tree itself, the kind of drapes or curtains that are coming off of it. I've heard a lot of people talk about how this is reminiscent of Marika's bedchamber, which is, I think, a very apt description. I think it's supposed to elicit that specific imagery in our head. And I think people have talked about how, looks like there's another tree bringing it down and then this and that. I think that the title itself speaks to what this is supposed to be, and it's a shadow of the ERDTREE. It's like the inverse. It's a reflection of, it's like if you could be in a mirror and seeing what you're seeing from the outside, from the inside. And so I think that's what this shadow of the ERDTREE is. This is a dark reflection of what the ERDTREE could be. And potentially the lands between in a different view. So obviously, like it's been said, it's a different realm. I think it's supposed to be a dark reflection of the lands between to some extent. So this image is pretty powerful, and I think you can see stuff falling off of it, and so I think maybe that is something to do with kind of what was happening after the ERDTREE was set aflame in the main game, and so I think that is a reflection of that kind because you can see that in the imagery from when the Erdtree gets set aflame. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. And then the light there, obviously I think that is the Erdtree from the main game kind of peeking through that shadow dimension, like I said, the inverse. So a lot's been said about this, and it looks like there's a lot of ruins and things here. So this is clearly a land that is not a great place to be, and has seen potentially some war. So in that forsaken place, blood must spill, the blood of your fellows. So I stopped on this scene for two reasons. One, because I wanted to go over the dialogue there of whoever is talking. I'm not sure who's talking. It could be a character that we've seen before. It might not be a character we've seen before. I'm not really good at knowing voice actors. I'm sure there's probably someone in the community who is really good at that. I would love some folks to chime in if they recognize the voice actor, because it could give us some insight into who is talking and what their perspective might be. And then going back to the blood must be in that forsaken land, blood must be spilled, blood of your fellows. So as we know, there in the storyline, there was other tarnished that were trying to attain the title of Elden Lord, attain the role of Elden Lord. And so looking at that, it could be a thing that, hey, we gotta once again fight people that are trying to seek what we're after. And so there could be other tarnished in this realm. We might not be the only folks to have come here, and since it's a dark realm, there could be other tarnished that have found their way here. So I think this could be setting up some kind of potentially competition, maybe, other people that are trying to accomplish something in this realm. Second reason I stopped here is because I think this image has been talked about a lot. To me, it screams magic. This reminds me a lot of the palace from the lakes. This reminds me of that part of the game. So this screams magic. The pews, the throne. I don't think it's someone who's like super like a huge like ruler of the land or something. The chair does look a lot like one that would have was used in the main game. But I do think this is something to do with magic. The color schemes, the way they're dressed, the robe. This just seems like something that's going to be heavily involved in magic. The bird cages and things you can see, on the left and the right. These are all things that were utilized in the environment from the magic parts of the map. Zoom up close of this character. Robe seems kind of like, doesn't seem like a very brutey person, so that's another reason why this says magic user, magic wielder, something that's not going to be a heavy fighter. So it also screams quests. I think this person's going to be giving us quests, issuing out some kind of major part of the quest line. We have to come and go, give us some tasks. Not sure to be friend or foe at the end. Elden Ring was really good about getting people we thought were helping us, and they ended up having a dark backstory or alternative motives. So I think that this person's going to be heavily involved in quests in some way, and I think they're going to give us potentially give us the access to some additional magics or some kind of skills. So I think that these are some things that haven't really been talked about when it comes to the characters yet. So talk about that last bit there, the ERDTREE faithful. So ERDTREE faithful, talking about ERDTREE, talking about grace. Obviously the grace aspect was a huge part of the first one. Hey, the tarnished had lost grace, and yet we had been summoned by grace to return, and we could see grace. We could see that's where we would do all our save at, is at the sites of grace. So once again, that tells me, hey, the ERDTREE faithful, other folks that are ignited by grace are going to be involved in this in some way. So maybe this is some way to save the ERDTREE. The ERDTREE faithful. If this land the blood needs to be spilled, blood of the ERDTREE faithful. Maybe they're trying to come to this land to find a way to save the ERDTREE, because obviously, as we know, the multiple endings to Elden Ring, setting it on fire was not the most popular course of action. So there could be some folks who are interested in saving the ERDTREE. Maybe this is a way to try to save the ERDTREE. So keep that in mind. So we have a different voice here, female voice. They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of the war. Once again, knowing who the voice actor is, who the female voice could be, is a huge thing, because once again, it gives some perspective on who's talking. And like I said before, I'm not an expert in voice actors, so if someone wants to chime in and give us an insight into who it might be, that'd be probably a pretty big thing. They're never saints. They just have to be on the losing side of the war. So Forsaken Land, first place that America set foot. A war was fought here, apparently, or could have been fought here, as kind of indicated by the multiple kind of see-through gravestones we have in this field. Potentially, there's another one here, a bigger one, a mausoleum, potentially. This boss, this creature specifically, a lot's been said about them and discussed. I think one of the videos I watched on this already was probably the most insightful, and that was that this is clearly something kind of intended to be related, like the kind of Chinese dragon where multiple people are inside of it and controlling it. That's what this is. I have no doubt in my mind this is going to be controlled by 2 people or more in there. I'm thinking 2. And they also have the ability to do things with the line itself, but also their own individual powers. So I think that's going to be a huge part in this fight. This is also reminiscent to me of, was it Malekith, the lion, the protector from Elden Ring. I think it's supposed to evoke imagery of that as well, but the lion face. And once again, being a dark, maybe a dark reflection of Elden Ring, of the lands between, this could be kind of an inverse part of him, kind of a dark mockery of that character. And I think that is further kind of hinted at in this scene. Right here. So this looks like Deathblight to me. This looks like Deathblight, the way it's being breathed out, the way it's falling. I don't think it makes sense for it to be black smoke. I don't see any fire here. So I think this is going to be an enemy that has the ability to wield Deathblight, which is one of the most underutilized things in the Lands Between. There were some spells and things you could get from that specific. There's a couple, actually, and a weapon you could use to get Deathblight, but it wasn't used too much. There were some enemies that could use Deathblight. Malekith had the Rune of Death, and so that allowed him to have that ability. So I think this is supposed to be, once again, reminiscent of that fight, and I think that Deathblight is going to play potentially a bigger role in this game than it did before, which Deathblight was just absolutely awesome. Also, lightning, I think, supposed to invoke, looking at the size of this arena, looking at the imagery used here, the backdrop, how the smoke is kind of in the air. I think this is supposed to invoke imagery of the Dragonlord Pursuit Axe, which was a optional boss fight from the game, and I think the wielding of lightning here is supposed to be reminiscent of that. So we got a boss that clearly uses lightning, and I think also wields Deathblight. So you're going to have a pretty big challenge here, I think. I think we're going to have a long fight. I suspect this could be a 2-stage fight. I think Deathblight is the initial. It could be one of the things inside has Deathblight, and the other thing inside has a lightning. So I think that would make sense for a 2-part boss fight. One creature shooting Deathblight and dancing around, the other one using lightning and kind of hovering. So I think that's some things that haven't been highlighted yet. And now we have Mesmer, the Impaler. Left to said about him, so I won't go on too much about him. But his specific dialogue is something that I want to highlight. So, Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction? So, Mother, this is guy America. Just based on his red hair, based on, the way that he carries himself, his height, his build, his clear amount of powers. This is got to be America's son. I have no doubt that the family tree isn't as clean as we've been led to believe with who we've seen so far, based on how the gods are and how America was and how the demigods are. They are all not really opposed to being involved with things that are pretty unscrupulous. So I think I think that Mesmer is a son of America.
Wouldst thou truly lordship sanction?
Wouldst thou truly lordship sanction? So I stopped here for a couple reasons. So first, would thou truly lordship sanction? So he's asking, hey, why would you really be in support of this person? Could be mentioning us, but it could be mentioning him. I think it's mentioning him because, as we know, if someone has runes and someone fights them and kills them and takes the runes, that person, has as much right to them as the person that they defeated. So I think maybe this is a rhetorical question, not for us, but for him, saying, oh, if I beat this guy, I get the runes. So, I think this is highlighting, hey, you've banished me. Are you giving me an opportunity to take these runes from this guy, this tarnished, and allow me to be the Elden Lord? So that's the first reason I stopped here. Second reason is looking at him, obviously super powerful looking. He's lean, tall, going to be one of those characters who probably moves around a lot, very agile. The boss fight, I think, is probably going to reflect that he's hard to predict, has a super far reach. I imagine the snakes are going to play a role in that. The power in his hand, it looks like blood magic. It looks like the same kind of thing that you could use in the original Elden Ring, The Lands Between. So I think this is going to be involved in that. If I remember correctly, how the blood magic was one that was kind of frowned upon, and I think that could be why he is potentially banished, is because he kind of took that magic and used it 100%. And so I think that's going to be kind of like how Mog had the ability to cause bleeding. I think that we're going to see a character here who has that same ability. As you can see, he's drawing things in. So this tells me that this area, or this land specifically, might have this kind of native ability for people to channel blood magic. The snakes look like they're coming from behind him, but maybe also attached to him. I know the snakes have a lot of imagery. I don't want to get too much into that because I think you probably go down a rabbit hole. I think they are important. I think it is supposed to invoke to us images of someone who is wielding more guile, somebody you can't trust. And I think that this sword, spear, is supposed to invoke images of Mog as well. I know Mog's spear had a very similar build to it, as well as the kind of what it looks like. So I think it's supposed to invoke that kind of imagery. And also, you have the curtains in the background. Once again, supposed to be invoking the imagery of America's bedchamber, I think, is also used in this frame. In one so bereft of light. So, once again, this is kind of, I don't think he's talking about us. I think he's talking about him, because as Tarnished, we do our saving at sites of grace. So we're not lacking in grace. And I think that, once again, he's talking about himself, who has lost grace. And so I think that he is an individual who's saying, oh, if I beat this guy, I'll get his runes. And so would you support me being Elden Lord? So I think that's something to consider. So I stop here for a couple reasons. So first is the voice changed back to the guy talking from the very beginning, whoever that male voice is. And so I think whoever that is will tell us a lot about why what he's saying is important. Second thing is his text specifically. I presume you two are keen to know what kind Michaela is doing here. Just what kind Michaela is doing here. I think the kind is capitalized because it's supposed to be a reference to like what good is he doing here? Like what change is he trying to impact in this world? So I think it's implied here that maybe potentially ironically that what kind is he doing here? And I think if you think about what was said in the beginning about how it's terrifying, once again, I think it's going to be revealed that Michaela isn't really all that good. I think that's been kind of spinned that way. I think that it's going to be highlighted that maybe what he's doing could be seen as objectively good at the cost of a lot of people's happiness. So I think that just what kind Michaela is doing here is a reference to him trying to make something better. And I think maybe this character is implying that that's not what is happening. So, those stripped of grace, those stripped of gold, shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame. So I think that is highlighting that, hey, he is like the person who visits visits death on those who have lost grace. Which, once again, I think is interesting because I feel like, maybe I'm misremembering, the Tarnished had lost grace, but grace came and found our Tarnished specifically to go and become Elden Lord. So that tells me that he might be targeting others that have lost grace, but I don't see how that applies to us. So maybe he is like this kind of, we're looking for some kind of grim reaper of Tarnished, of those that have lost grace. So obviously we're going to fight him, but maybe he underestimates that we have not lost grace, and so therefore we won't get beaten by him. Obviously, we're going to die a lot to him, like hundreds and hundreds of times trying to fight him. However, obviously, we're going to beat him at some point, and then I think the realization will be that, hey, we haven't lost grace. We're here doing grace's work. So I think that's something to think about. So, female voice. I'm not sure if it's the same female voice we heard earlier. I think it is. So once again, knowing whose voice that is will make a huge thing. So, come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow. So clearly we know that's how we get there. Touch the withered arm. It's not touch my withered arm. It's touch the withered arm. So sometimes this isn't Mikola. I think this is somebody else. I think it's someone else talking. Could be Ranny. Could be our initial guide. Like I said, I'm not good voice actors. I'm probably wrong on that, like 100%. I feel like maybe I've seen something that said that this was Mikola's voice actor saying this, so I could be way off. By the way that they say touch the withered arm, I feel like it's not Mikola. Maybe it's someone else talking about the withered arm specifically. Once again, we get another view here of the blood flame. So I think this is going to be that's going to be his specific power, is this blood flame. So final words. I will not be far behind. May we meet again. So meet again. So this tells me that we either talking to this person now, and like they're like as if we are in the same place with them, they're guiding us, or we have met before and they're communicating us through some other means. It could be something written. Maybe it's a note that we see. Maybe it's a something that means that, hey, we know who this character is. We've encountered them in the lands between, and they're going to be meeting us there. Obviously, I think timeline of this game, of this expansion, I've heard people, Rage Gaming, which is an amazing channel. If you haven't checked them out, you should definitely check them out. Awesome channel. Have suggested this happens before we actually go and fight America in the tree. And so if that's the case, this might be saying that, hey, this isn't a done deal yet. The game doesn't have a official canon ending yet, because there's like 10 endings. And so if that's the case, then this might be before we alienate any of our allies. So I will not be far behind. So someone's going to meet us there, and it's someone we potentially have already met. So if it's before we leave, Tusk Withered Arm, then it's before we even leave, and it's someone we already know before then. So I think it's got to be someone you've already talked to. That's my viewpoint. I think it's Randy or someone like that. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate you coming to check out the Total Casual channel. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to please like and subscribe. Drop in the comments any other trailers or games you want me to break down. Anything you want to see from the Total Casual, and I will do my best to do it for you. So once again, thank you for coming, and hope you got value out of this.